I removed the two fuses from the relays. One does the oil pump and the injector power. One does the fuel pump and the coils power. Here's what happens when I crank it. Last night I took the instructions inside. I had a bit more of a read to see if there's anything I might have missed, and I noticed on the handheld I had a slight error warning shown, and I thought that might have always been the case. I can't remember, but anyway, this wire here, this set of wires, has a link wire that gets rid of the turbo timer. So I've dug through the old harness, which I'm glad I didn't throw out because normally I'm bad for bin and stuff, and that's the guy there. Don't know if that'll fix the problem, but definitely we'll try it. The injectors are disconnected, the coils are disconnected, the communication cable is disconnected from the ECU, and that link cable to eliminate the boost controller is plugged in like it should be. So we'll key it on. Okay, that all looks correct. Now we'll crank it over. That all looks correct to me. I've gone back through some old videos and I was able to check the wiring layout, and it all appears that I've done it the way that I intended to. I'm not sure whether the timing is correct, so the next move is to try and use a timing light. I can't use a timing light to hook it straight to the coil on plug. It's meant to be a bit troublesome. So speaking to Glenn again, and he reckons what you can do is basically put an adapter in here, put a normal plug lead in, earth your plug out, and then just connect this inductive pickup here, and we should be good to go. So that's what we'll do. We'll rip this timing cover off and see if we can identify the timing marks and see what's going on. I've got the timing light connected to cylinder number 1. When the timing light is picking up the spark from that cylinder, it should basically be flashing in around about this location. Let's check it. Well, I've checked the timing. It's a bit hard for me to show you because the timing light's not picking it up properly through the camera. But from what I can see, it's firing 180 degrees out. So this must mean that the trigger wire going into the coil igniters is wrong. If I swap those two around, I think I'll be ready to go. Here's where we're up to. I'll swap the two wires that come out of the ECU and go down to the coil igniters, and basically that's fixed the problem where the coils were firing 180 degrees out. So now what we'll do is put the spark plugs back in it, click all the wires down, the plug leads down, hook the injectors up, and finally see if this bike goes. Well, it's a runner. That's good. Good to hear it. Now we'll try and make the thing run a bit better. Come on, old mate. Rip the plugs out because it still sounded horrible. Super black. She's rich as. Looks like we better get that air fuel meter onto it as well. See what's going on. These trigger points I've put onto this rotor to tell the wolf when to fire the coils or inject the fuel. When I look at the instructions, Basically, I've made a mistake and it's not correct. So I need to pull that off, rectify that mistake, and make sure that that crank trigger is in the right spot. I need to send the dial gauge down that spark plug hole so I can see when the piston is at TDC. So what I'm going to use is my dial gauge, obviously, and it so happens that a push bike spoke will screw into that dial gauge. They're the same thread, which makes it pretty handy. Well, one push bike spoke didn't quite fit. We'll see if this mad idea works. Two push bike spokes. So my pointer's come up rock solid with this heat shrink with the glue in it. I'll screw it into the dial gauge. Then I need to figure out how to support this magnetic base onto my bike, which is mainly aluminium. So it looks like there is a fault with how I've made this part. I'll take it off, we'll take it to the bike shop and see if we can do it correctly. It's really tight. I'm going to try and heat it up so I can get the bolt undone, but it's already started to rip the guts out of the cap head, so I have to cross my fingers and see if I can get it out. So it's not coming off really easy. It's trying to rip the insides of the bolt out. I've warmed it right up. As usual, nothing is easy on this bike. Trying to remove the rotor. Basically, this cap head is extremely tight. I can't get it undone. I've warmed it up. It's pulling the center out of the bolt. So I'm going to drill it out. The head will pop off and hopefully there's enough stud left that I can warm it up and remove the stud from the end of the crank. That's the plan. So now the head's been removed from the bolt, we need to take this off. We need to remove this. So I bolted the crank trigger back on. The dial gauge is working mint. And basically I worked out at where 90 is. When it comes up to 90 on my gauge, I put a mark. And when it goes back to 90, I'll put another mark on the cases, which is these guys here. So right in the middle, when I back it up and come back up to it, that was where I worked out that my true TDC markings is. So now I'll modify that rotor and put these 3 trigger points in the correct spots. I've got the rotor fitted back on. I've put some extra marks on it. Timing lights all plugged in. I've made up a map for testing the ignition timing just on 0 degree advance, so then I can calibrate the pickup sensor to the wolf. I've made a really mild ignition map. I've done the same to the fueling map because it's basically fouling the spark plugs as soon as I start it. And I'll also drop that fuel pressure back to about 40 psi.